Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. This episode, as always, of the Marco Martins Revolution is brought to you by Vodcast TV, Johannesburg's premier podcast studio platform, where if you've ever wanted to host your own podcast and you simply don't know enough about microphones, lights, cameras, or you just simply don't have the space to do it, this is the space for you. It's absolutely available for anyone, whether it's for your business or for yourself. And it's just the best way to create a podcast in Johannesburg. So check us out. It is vodcasttv.com. You can get 15% off of your first order if you go to vodcasttv.com/revolution, and you'll get 15% off of your first order. Without further ado, I've been looking forward to this for such a long time. The first football-based podcast on the Marco Martins Revolution.
A revolution is a fundamental and relatively sudden change in political power. An organization which occurs when the population revolts. This is the Marco Martins Revolution, powered by Vodcast TV. Visit vodcasttv.com for more.
Okay, guys, welcome to the podcast. We've got Elias Panagiotopoulos.
That's right. Well
here
done.
in the studio with us, and Andréa Savvides.
What's up?
Okay, guys, are we football fans? Are we former footballers? Let's get through it. Elias, let's start with you. Give people a little bit of your football background. For those of you who don't like football, tune out of this podcast already, because it's the whole podcast is going to be football.
Yeah, so football player, football fan my whole life. From the south, yeah, not Robertson, Sporting, all the way, yeah, Portugal, yeah. Andrea and I are both from actually from Sporting, so the Greeks in the Portuguese team. I've played in a couple of teams though. I've played overseas in Sweden as well as Andrea. We played in a district side that went to Gothia Cup, and I went on trial to Olympiacos for a few weeks.
Now that's a big club. Anyone who doesn't really know football and has managed to stay tuned in after that intro. Olympiacos is a giant football team, the biggest in Greece. And not only the biggest in Greece, debatably the biggest in Greece. I think definitely there's 100%. No debate. They're absolutely the biggest in Greece. There might be debate about if Man United's the biggest team in England, which they absolutely are. There is no debate. But anyway, it's that sort of thing. Is whether they're winning titles this season or last season or 2 seasons ago is irrelevant in terms of the size of the team. So they're absolutely the biggest side in Greece. Whether they're the best right now, that would be debatable. But anyway, Olympiacos, the biggest side in Greece. What was it like going there?
Yeah, it was quite crazy, intimidating as hell, and maybe I've jumped the gun a bit.
Okay, well, let's go back to your intro. So you played football your entire life.
Yeah.
You're a football fan now. Mm-hmm. You're obviously past the retirement age for a professional footballer.
100%. Even like a five-a-side footballer past that. Yeah.
Okay, so give us a little background. When did you go to Greece?
Yeah, so I went to Greece in 2006 after I matriculated. I had the luxury of finishing school 1 year early. I started, 1 year early, and then I managed to go over.
So you were born in 1989?
88.
88?
Yeah, so I was actually with the 87s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I went
So
over.
2005 you matriculated. That's when
right.
you finished your school year.
100%.
And then 2006 you went to Greece.
Yeah, 2006 I went to Greece.
Who was in that Olympiacos side in 2006?
Man, the one name that everyone will go crazy for is
I remember this.
Rivaldo. And I have such a good memory of this. It's the first time I've actually been starstruck. So we're training on the reserve field. So I wasn't there for too long. Obviously, I didn't make it into the side, which we'll get into that
later. Don't let them know that yet.
Yeah,
let them just believe you played for Olympiacos.
Yeah, and then I decided to leave to pursue another dream.
Anyway, yeah. So you're on this training ground at Olympiacos. Yes. This is the biggest football team you've ever seen. You've come from South Africa,
yes,
where you would have seen some top clubs. I mean, we'll get into that. You were playing at youth level for some of the
for Supersport.
For Supersport.
Yeah.
Supersport United, obviously PSL team. You're playing at youth level before you went over to Greece.
Yes.
And obviously facilities-wise, you went from South African football in 2006 to European football, former champions of absolutely everything in Greece.
Yes.
And you went to go see just facilities that have changed. It's a different world.
Completely different. And Olympiakos' training ground is called Ready. Well, I don't know if it's still that, but they call it Ready. And
probably Emirates Stadium
Yeah,
training ground at this point. Yeah.
Everything now is Emirates.
Yeah,
who
everything's
knows? Maybe it's Turkish, the way things are going. But that's another topic. that we won't
Etihad,
get into.
Emirates
Won't get into Turkish
training
stuff
ground
for
for
now.
Olympiakos or something. Anyway, yeah.
So on the field, it's so the first team trains on the reserve team's match field, if that makes sense. And then next to that is the reserve team training field. And then inside is this massive facility. It's huge. Like you were saying, I don't know what Man United or any of those guys look like. But for me, Olympiakos was a gem. Because it is the biggest club in Greece. They've won probably 80% of the titles since the 90s. Panathinaikos that's the one Andrea's kind of
It's my dad's
talking
too.
about. But that's like
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say...
Look, those are the top two.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah. they
Well,
are the
not
top
anymore,
two.
but again, they're like the Arsenal of Greece. So
In terms of fan base, international
in terms of
exposure,
fan
everything
base.
like that, whether they're the best in
Yeah.
the league or whether they're performing at this time,
Yes.
debatable.
Debatable.
But then
They're
definitely one of
let's
the
say,
big sides.
of the top 3-4 biggest ones.
Let's put it this way: if you're gonna see someone from Brazil
Yeah.
in the twilight of their career, they're moving from Serie A or La Liga,
Yeah.
and they're not going to Galatasaray in Turkey.
Yes.
They're going to Olympiakos or Panathinaikos
Yeah,
in Greece. I mean,
100%.
those are that's the level of those sides. They can attract big names.
They do, yeah. And in fact, when I was there, I just left. So again, I'm jumping the gun. I went to a smaller team to try to establish a name for myself. Olympiakos just signed Yaya Toure in 2006 before he went to Barcelona.
Yes.
So they really attracted quite a few younger players as well because it's Greece and it's an easy league just to win something if you go to Olympiakos at the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, I end up at Ready. I walk into the change room and it's a bit of a funny story. So my Greek wasn't great and there were these coaches and they're all intimidating. The coach at the time, I can't remember his name, long Greek name. He was a ex-Olympiakos professional star. So he came to me, he's like, go into the change room and they're going to come ask you what you need. So I'm like, okay. So I pack my clothes, like ready, we just training whatever. Yeah. So I get to the change room and the guy goes, I'm going to bring you clothes. I'm like, I got clothes. He's like, okay. What he meant to say was he was going to give me an Olympiakos kit to train in because that's how it works in Europe. You're training, you're part of the team. So I walk out in, I think it was a Southern Districts kit and everyone was laughing at me, which was already, I was on the back foot. I'm like, oh, shit. Here we go. Yeah, so...
The new guy.
Yeah, they're like, whoa, that guy's weird.
I think, and again, at the time when you were there, were you the only foreign player on trial there, or was there one or two others?
So I was the only. So there were two of us. There was another guy. His name's Nico. I don't think he made it. I didn't see anything of him. He came from Chelsea actually. When Chelsea was big at the time, they Drogba, and him and I got quite close because we were English speaking.
Okay.
And I would ask him about, do you see Drogba and all these cool questions. And he's like, yeah, we train all the time. I'm like, that's amazing. And you do these crosses. And
So his name was Nico. So was he English Greek?
Yeah, he was an English Greek.
So
yeah.
born in
like,
England, but
yes.
from Greek family, similar to you.
Yeah.
Greek South African.
Yes.
So English Greek. Okay.
Exactly. But his Greek was better than mine. So he got on a lot better with the guys. I battled a lot because even though we learn Greek, we don't learn Greek in everyday speak. If somebody learns English and comes to speak to you, it's not the same thing. You need to know like the slang and that. So already I was on the back foot with that kind of stuff. And the timing that I went, so I had an agent who was a family member. And he was an ex-coach of a team called Atromitos, which at the time was somewhat newly promoted, and he got them promoted. And
was he a manager? He was the head coach.
He was the head coach of Atromitos, but now at this stage he was retired. Sorry.
Okay.
And although he didn't get me into Olympiakos, he got me other stuff later on. But I wasn't really prepared to go at the time, and I was kind of rushed to go in January and that was the worst time to go. Absolute worst time. Everyone was somewhat either ending the season or halfway through. Reserve league was
anyone
finished.
who follows European league, it's like January is your mid-season.
Yeah, it's mid-season.
So there's no way you're breaking
Yeah.
into the side now,
Yes.
unless they're short on numbers in your position or something along those lines.
Correct.
Yeah,
and
they
also
already have their team.
yeah,
pretty
they've got
much
their
sorted.
team. And like what was said to me at the end when I didn't get in is they said, we're Olympiacos and we're not here to train people to be big names. We just want big names. So the reserve team was a place where they just sell you off to someone just to make something and show that they've got like youngsters in the team. And maybe one will break through, but not so much. That's what I gathered. Obviously, it's not factually
That's your
based.
opinion, yeah.
So when we got there was a lot of like messing around. We played volleyball, football, and I was also end of the season South Africa in terms of social leagues and stuff. So going there, I wasn't at my fittest either. So there were a lot of things that already I was on the back foot. But when I got there, the professionalism of those players is second to none. Their psychology, they're all very confident, very strong, very fit. That even though if I was at my fittest, I was already behind. We did a lot of training exercises where, geez, I looked at them and I'm like, wow, these guys are strong, very strong. And it's a bit intimidating. And I think we were talking before the podcast a little bit about how these African guys go into these teams with nothing. And they make it. And here I am, I've been given quite a good upbringing and I go there and then don't make it. Is it maybe the lack of suffering that I didn't go through?
Yeah.
That
You're not
didn't
hungry
come,
enough.
like that's kind of played on my mind. But anyway, we'll get into all those things later. Let me just go back to the Rivaldo story.
Because people are screaming, tell us about Rivaldo.
Rivaldo, yeah. I'm like, I'm definitely like a 5FM, yeah. I'll tell you about this and then ad break and then, anyway. So we're taking shots at the goal on the reserve training field. And I kicked the ball over the post. Before that, funny enough, I kicked it. There were two goal areas, and I shot twice over the goal, and there were flats behind, and I broke two windows. It was absolutely hilarious. Anyway, so I had shot over the goalpost, and
Which is already embarrassing enough.
Yeah, exactly. And the coach is like, oh my God. And I was the second person to have done that. And there was another guy after me also broke. So we broke 4 or 5 windows that day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, absolutely
They
crazy.
should put up nets.
Yeah, they did. But there was like a
just
gap.
have buildings behind the
There
goals.
was a gap like this.
Between the nets.
And we all managed to do it anyway. So I kick the ball over the goals and I go and I collect the ball from the fence and I see the first team running around. But I'm not really paying attention. I want to get my ball, go back and, go back to shooting. And then I just look up and I see this giant figure of a man because you have no idea how tall Rivaldo actually is. You don't really get a sense of how big they are. He's tall.
Yeah.
And he's running past and he's the first guy. He's not like on the end on that side. He's right by the fence. And I picked the ball up. Or I actually didn't pick the ball up. I just held it and I was like, oh, God, it's Rivaldo. And I watched him for a little bit. I'm like, no, you got to be cool, man. You got to be cool. Just go back like whatever. Rivaldo's just another player. So that was awesome. And
World Cup winner.
World Cup winner. The Greeks absolutely loved him.
He's a Champions League winner with Barcelona. He won La Liga with Barcelona.
Yeah.
He won everything.
He won everything.
He was great.
He'd won a lot with Olympiacos already.
He was top goal scorer, top assists in one of the World Cups. He was a top player.
Ridiculous diver at one of the World Cups
Yeah.
as well.
That was the worst.
So it was fantastic. Like honestly, it was amazing to see. And you just got like the sense of I wanna make it there. I can run on that field with that guy.
Yeah.
Around the field. So that's the Rivaldo story.
So now before you switch back to what happened after Olympiacos at that time, Andrea, let's talk a little bit about you and your football history. Like how it started, when you started playing, where you played.
Cool. So same as Elias, where good families, loved football all life, played from about 5 years old. Club football at Robertsham first for a couple of years in the south of Joburg. Questionable choice by my parents. But then moved to Sporting when I was 11 or 12.
You were 12, I was 11.
We're in the same team. We moved over to Sporting the same time. League champions first season. Got promoted.
Yeah.
And then, I just played at Sporting majority of my time playing football. Can't really remember going for trials anywhere, even though I always wanted to. I might have gone to Supersports at the time. Balfour Park was doing trials for Supersport at one point, which I went to. Didn't get in at the time. Not sure why. I thought I was great. But enjoyed my time playing football. The best I got to was the Southern District team that went to Sweden on tour with Elias. So that for me was like the greatest high that I got to.
Right.
At 18 years old, made this team, this exposure in another country, and then the greatest high to the lowest low in the same time, where we went to Sweden in the first game. I came on second half and I tore my hamstring. The first game of the tournament.
And out for the rest of the
Of course, yeah, torn hamstring.
I missed the whole tournament basically, so I had to watch from the sidelines, which was
tough.
pretty heartbreaking. The guys did well though. Can't remember how far he got.
I don't know if it was last 16 or quarterfinals.
Yeah, it
but
was one of the
we played
two.
some tough teams and
Some Swedish teams, some American teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
So quite good. And then I played up until about 2021 at Sporting, and then I didn't say I lost the love of playing. I was studying and trying to start getting life together,
You start worrying about a career outside of football,
exactly.
whereas when you're building up to that age, football is the potential career.
Sure,
I think for most of us. For me, that ended a lot earlier because I got into music and things like that, and I stopped playing. And your coach at the time at Supersport United, before you went, was Mike Pavkovic.
Yes,
and he was a coach of mine at school level. And he was so angry with me that I stopped playing to go and do music instead of playing football. I always loved football, but I think I knew all along I was a few levels below a few of the very top guys. And I knew, sure, I work harder and everything, but in terms of just the skill and ability and stuff, I'm not going to make a career out of this. And I've got other passions that I enjoy as well. So I carried on a social level with football, but I didn't pursue it from like the age of 15 or 16. That's when I sort of cut mine. So anyone who doesn't know my football history, that's sort of about it. I also played for Gauteng when I was young. Then I stopped and then only started playing league football again many years later. I was probably 25 and I started playing for Germiston City. Injury, knees, terrible, stuffed, and
Could have gone pro.
It could have gone pro. I don't think I could have gone pro.
If it wasn't for that knee injury.
Yeah. I don't think I could have. I don't think I had the ability. But I think that maybe football journalism is like a little something for me. So I used to write for Give Me Sport, the Writers Academy. So I had a few publications there with them, just a few articles published under Give Me Sport. Maybe something to get back into, I don't know. But anyway, right. So let's talk about the pro football level. So let's go step by step. So you were at youth level with Supersport United.
Yeah, at under 13.
From under 13 until?
Just under 13.
Just under 13.
Yeah. So under 13, it was like a weird, I don't know if they knew what they were doing, to be honest. They've restructured. It's not the same Supersport as it is now.
It's because this was with the partnership with Feyenoord in the Netherlands around that time. This was before then.
Yeah, this was before. So my team, it was the under 13s that went, well, actually it was the under 12s that went to the Gothia Cup in Sweden. And at that time, I don't know if it's still the same, but the under 12s would play on a half field. Not like the other teams would play full field.
They did.
So it was only like 6 or 7, I think it was. And the under 13 team was the core, was that 6 and 7, which part of it was Daniel Cardozo. He was one of the players.
Who's now Kaiser Chiefs, by the way.
Yeah.
And Bafana.
There we go. That's
Name
it.
drop.
Yeah, boom. And so they were the core side, and then everyone got latched on, and I was one of the lucky ones who got latched on. We had trials. What was that? Do you remember that school by Balfour Centre? There's that school across the road. Anyway, there were the trials that were there. It was quite cool. And then, so we got into the under 13 side. We had a decent year. We lost out on the title to Pirates, and we won the cup. So it was all right. But what happened afterwards was a bit strange. It restructured. Mike Pavkovic wasn't the coach after that. We had another guy, Kenneth, and there were two teams. There was like a super sport team, and then there was a Balfour side. And that's when the Feyenoord connection started. I think it was Feyenoord. Was it Feyenoord?
From what I remember, it was fine.
think
Actually, it wasn't Feyenoord at first. It was NAC or NEC. It's one of those. It's got like a bear logo. I can't remember exactly which one it is. They started out, and then Feyenoord came in afterwards, and they were obviously the bigger club that you want to align with. And they restructured.
I remember a couple of South Africans going over as part of that program, going over to Feyenoord for their trial system and stuff like that, and one or two sort of stuck around in Europe as well.
Yeah, they're quite good with that stuff. That's why I guess it's good to partner with the Dutch.
Like Ajax.
I don't know if they were...
Ajax have a partnership with Ajax Cape Town here in South Africa, and they take a lot of players, like a development program.
That's right,
It's pretty much where Pienaar and Benny McCarthy and all of them got their breaks was from.
Yeah.
Ajax.
And that other one, Celo, what's his name? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but he was the latest one that went across. So then they restructured. It was quite a weird time because, we all were on a hype being part of the team. We hadn't lost a game, even though, we lost maybe one game, even though we'd come second. And then from the next year, it was kind of like the split, where only 3 or 4 players got pulled to the Supersport team in a completely new side.
It was a weird thing that happened.
It was very strange. Basically. And it wasn't just us, it was the under 15s, the under 17s. At the time, there's not every year. It was 13, 15, 17, and up like that. And then the next year, I actually stopped playing football. I was quite frustrated with that whole split. And that whole Supersport thing, from what I understand, somewhat dissolved and rebranded, and they had a base in Pretoria now. And they changed the kits, they changed everything, and
so
it was like a completely
Stan
new
Matthews took it over.
Yeah, I think that's right. Stan Matthews came in and took it over.
So for those who don't understand how this all works, what we're describing, the large international clubs, what they do is they have a lot of funding available to them. So they go and find countries where they think that there's a big talent pool, and they will partner with what they call a feeder club, so much smaller clubs. So for example, any PSL side is going to be smaller than a Netherlands-based side, one of the first team Netherlands sides. So they create these feeder clubs to find youth talent, and then they help develop the club. So they help give them information, how to train, how to do this, how to do that. They also give them capital funding, and then that way, if there's any talented players that they really like and see potential in at that club, they bring them over and see if they can develop them into first team players in the future. So it's called a feeder club. So we have a couple in South Africa, mostly I think with our Dutch connection, like we were talking about, Ajax, Feyenoord, they have thing, but there's also more. There's Braga have from Portugal, they have feeder clubs here in South Africa as well. There's 1 or 2 others from around Europe. So it's quite interesting to see that South Africa is one of their talent pool places, less so than the rest of Africa. So I know like Nigeria has like massive talent scouting and stuff over that side because they see massive potential in the local talent in Nigeria. But anyway, for young footballers who are going into it, this is where you started, and then you went to Olympiacos. Let's take it after that.
So when I've left Olympiacos, or when I've...
as you left. Yeah. So just while you were there, what happened? Why did you leave?
Yeah. So I didn't leave by choice, obviously. I would have loved to have stayed, but I also somewhat knew that I had to leave. Like I said, my agent did discuss with me during the time and said, you're most likely going to have to go lower, build yourself up, and then try and get into a team, because the guys don't really care especially at that time when they were buying Rivaldos, and you weren't really going to break into the side unless you were a Messi or someone fantastic, and then in that case you'd probably be at Barcelona Youth Academy already. So I had the talk with the coaches, and they basically were quite nice to me. They said, look, you don't have a name, so go out and get your name, and then who knows what will happen. They didn't say come back or anything like that. So I went to a team called Cholargo. Now, again, my Greek wasn't great, so I'm not sure if we were 3rd division or 4th division. I had no clue.
But you were a few tiers down from that first division.
A few tiers down was... I had an opportunity to get into the side. It wasn't as competitive, obviously, as the other teams. So started there. But again, my timing was so off that the season was ending
Yeah.
And it was going into the end of season, and it's like nobody's getting signed.
So where was this team based?
Athens.
Also in Athens.
Yeah, so it's in Athens. It was quite far in. So from where I stayed to get to that club was quite a nightmare. I had to walk a bit, get on a bus, get on the train, get on another bus, sometimes catch a taxi or walk. It would take me like an hour to do that whole journey there and back. Which again, like, we're somewhat privileged, so that's hard.
It was annoying.
Yeah, you get dropped off by mom and dad, and then you're right there. So it was quite strange. And again, remember, I'm 17 at the time, so my mentality is not exactly that strong. I guess if I went back with my mind now, maybe things would have been different. But anyway, so I get to this club, and it's quite tough because it's a bunch of guys all eager to make a name for themselves. There's less arrogance and there's more aggression. So I had quite a few fights with people also being quite fiery myself. So when I get to the change room, the one guy comes up to me, English is shocking. He says to me, he's from South Africa. So yes. He's like, parletet. And he's saying to me, parletet. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it turns out he was trying to say Sean Bartlett, because they all know Sean Bartlett.
Sean Bartlett.
He was
I'm
a
like,
big
yes, from South Africa. So we started playing, and I got put into an unfamiliar role, where here I was more of a centre defensive midfielder. There I was a striker, because everyone was just so strong. It's crazy. I remember walking in and finding out that the first training game, someone broke his leg, and another guy shattered this cheekbone going up for a header.
Jeez.
And I was like, whoa. And that's what it is. It's really physically tough. And we'll go into all of this in detail, but I feel like one of the things about South Africa, and I'm not just talking about, like I said, the privileged guys, I'm talking about everyone. We have like a very bad system in terms of training people to be physically strong, but also mentally strong. We're lacking so much in that transition from going from this to that. As a newbie, right? I'm not saying like the guys that go over that have somewhat been at Pirates, and they've got a little bit of it, but I feel like there's a lot lacking in that. So it was a big challenge, because it's not easy, you know. You get to a team, you're a foreigner. Even though I'm Greek, I'm not Greek in their eyes. You're challenging someone for their job. So they got their buddies already, that they've been there for quite some time. So their buddies are also like, no, but, you know, it's like a Love Island, you know, if you've watched Love Island. You're not going to want that person to steal your buddy's girlfriend. It's the same thing. The girlfriend is the job. It's the position. So anyway, I got pushed up into a striker role, and I actually did quite well. It was funny, because they don't really do they don't use skill that much. It's
just physical.
Brute force, get it in the box, and header. So I would use my skill and get away. And I'm not terribly skillful, but I was compared to those guys, which was quite cool.
Because South Africa's a big skill league. Like if we look at its touches, step overs, things like that, try beat the defender, then create space, then zip it into someone's feet far too hard, and then laugh at them if they can't control it. So that seems to be like we used to call it PSL passes. You zip it in really hard to someone's feet instead of play them into space or something, and you know, challenge their controllability.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a big part of our local game.
Yes.
And not that you're necessarily describing all European football, but Greek football in particular, very physical.
Right. Very.
Get the ball wide, pump it into the box, try win a header and score a goal that way.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll just quickly tell you a story of how I got absolutely screamed at. So we had a track around our field in the Athens, I think it was the Athens athletic team was training, so they'd run around. And you know, you 17 again, there are these fit girls running around, and you just want to impress, you know, like, wow, I've got to do something cool. So we were training in someone in the last quarter of the field, and I get the ball wide, and you know, in South Africa, we were trained to cut back instead of cross. Obviously, you cross now and then, you use your discretion, but if you could, you'd cut back, because headering is not a great talent that we had at the time. And we're somewhat shorter than they are, and obviously physically they're much bigger. So I did that. I cut behind the guy, and I thought I did a great job. I sold him for peanuts in the corner, and I get behind him. I'm ready to pick out my pass, and I just hear the whistle screaming, and everyone just stops. And this coach comes at me with words that I don't understand, but I understood them, if you know what I mean.
You got what he meant.
You knew you were in
And at
trouble.
that time, these fit girls are running around in the corner, and they all stop and watch me getting shat on. And it's all because I didn't cross, because that was the thing. There they want the ball in the box because they headed like champions.
And put it in early.
Put it in early. It's like somewhat English style in a way. Lower division, I would imagine. Put it in the box. In fact, I met a guy here long ago in a club, and he went to Fulham, and he said the same thing. He said, you got to put it in the box. There's no other. They don't want anything else. Put it in the damn box.
No.
So there's a little bit of a funny story of how the different culture clashes come in, and you think you've done a great job, but actually, wow, you're getting screamed at.
Okay, well, I think that we can get into this a little bit. I remember, obviously, us being exposed to what football we watched as youngsters. We watched limited actual PSL. We watched a lot of English league in the early 90s.
Majority was English.
English league. And I think in the early 90s, mid 90s, when we were watching football, you'd see a lot of that. A pacey, skillful wide player, one. You didn't have left and right. Only Man United had a top player left and right, like a pacey, skillful player on both flanks. Not many teams had that. So they'd have one guy on the right-hand side who was quick, normally a bit smaller, a little bit of skill, but they were just quick enough to get down the right-hand side, 4-4-2 formation, which is nearly dead now. Only lower league teams seem to be playing with a 4-4-2. You'd get a player down the right-hand side, lots of skill. He has to have a right foot on him. Doesn't even cut back on a left, nothing like that anymore. Down the right-hand side, whip in a ball, and you got two hardy, tall, big centre forwards who would attack it for a header. And I think that was the English game. When we were younger in the early 90s, you'd see a lot of it.
That's what we lived off.
Yeah, that's exactly what we
knew.
That's what
even
we knew.
Our formations at a time when we were playing, that's what our tactics were basically.
4-4-2.
Get it down to the wing, get a first-time ball in.
Yeah. I was 25 years old the first time I played in a team that didn't have a 4-4-2. The first time I played in a team that didn't have a 4-4-2 formation, I was 25 years old.
Must have felt weird.
I really enjoyed it. It was because I think my tactical knowledge grew by that time. And that for me was always my game. I didn't have much natural ability. I wasn't the best player. I wasn't the fittest. I was never, ever the fittest.
Didn't you have asthma?
I don't have asthma, but I have exercise-induced pulmonary edema.
Yes,
so what that means, I've got a thin lung membrane. So you have blood running around your lungs sort of all the time. And there's a membrane protecting your lungs from getting blood in them. What happens when I exercise a lot of breathing, that membrane ruptures slightly. So I get blood into my lungs and I'll start coughing up blood if I exercise a lot. Now, it's not a serious condition. It's not life-threatening or anything. But the thing is to be like a pro athlete, the amount of running you have to do and the fitness levels you need to get at, it's going to be very difficult with a condition like that. But this is only something I knew long after I had no chance of having a football career anyway. But to me, I remember being very young and thinking, oh, that's normal. You run a lot and then you cough up blood. That just means that you've run too much. I just thought, okay, that's pretty normal. You've just run too much. So just run a little less than that next time.
You guys vomiting
yeah.
Hey, Mom, look, I trained hard.
I pushed myself. I was proud of myself a little bit because you worked so hard that you're coughing up blood. I worked harder than everyone else.
That's great.
But thinking beyond that, I always thought tactical side of the game. That was always my thing. And I think that's why I was pretty good defensively, because then it's like, okay, you've got skill, you've got ability, you're quicker than me, whatever. So what I'll do is I'll just monitor how you're playing. I'll monitor that, okay, this guy likes to use his left foot, so I'll just push him out this way. Just push him out this way, then he can't do anything. Just push him out this way and he can't do anything. Get goal side of your man, run sideways, things like that, so that if someone tries to play the ball in, you've got that covered, you've got that area covered, and that was always part of my game. And I always hated the 4-4-2 formation for that because it left you vulnerable. I love a packed midfield. Love a packed midfield. I was so excited when Louis van Gaal took over at Man United. Being a Man United fan, I thought, yes, 3 at the back, we're going to solidify that, and then have super fit wingers, wing backs, with the 3 at the back, so you're solid. You've got your defensive midfielders helping that centre back 3, and you've got wingers pumping up the sides like a Juventus side, from the past. So I was excited about that. But anyway, playing for a team that had 5 in the midfield for the first time, I loved it, because then you can distribute the ball to one of them, and you have freedom of the wing backs overlapping your wingers. And as long as you got a striker who's going to take chances, because you're going to create chances for that one person up front if you got 5 in the midfield, and you're also going to be more solid. You're going to make it so difficult for the other team. I think that's key. And I mean, this is why the 4-4-2 formations almost completely disappeared at really top level sides, because if you've got players with ability, you're playing against players with ability, you have to mitigate the risks before you can actually go ahead and play with freedom. I think that's important. So again, like I said, that's what we grew up on. Get the ball wide, play it into the 2 centre forwards, make sure that they just pump into the box. They're on the last man. There was very little of this stepping off and creating space and stuff like that.
On the last man, always.
Yeah,
and Scholes, he's standing on the edge of the box
to pick up whatever else.
There would always be the number 10 or centre mid ready to just crack one in.
I don't think there was even a 10 at that time. Your number 10 was your second striker, and they were both on the last defender.
Or it would just be like the 9 and the 10 would just be a little bit behind him, sort of.
Yeah. Maybe
flick it onto the number 9.
If you had a skillful little number 9, and that was, if I think back to the England side with Emile Heskey and Michael Owen, you had Emile Heskey, the big, bulky, strong guy, big, tall guy. They just pump the ball into him. He'll hold it up, but like Marwan Fellaini. If you haven't watched football, if you're like younger and you only started watching football more recently, Emile Heskey could hold the ball up like a dream. Yeah. And he had good feet, and he had just laid off to Michael Owen, who had all the pace in the world. Yeah. All the pace in the world. He just left people for dead. I think if you put him in a team today, he wouldn't look as pacey. He was quick. He'd still look quick. But then he just outran everyone. He was just so quick, and he had a finish on him. And I think that was the combo that worked so well. You get a big centre forward, and he just holds the ball up for the skillful smaller guy, and that's it. And they just attack headers, attack balls. That's it. So this, when you went to Olympiacos, obviously 4-4-2s. When you went down to lower division, 4-4-2s.
Well, I don't know if Olympiacos had a 4-4-2. That's actually interesting. I can't remember. We didn't play. We were training in the reserves. We didn't play a game, so I'm not too sure what they used. In fact, at Golargo, we played a 4-5-1, if I'm not mistaken. But that somewhat becomes a 4-4-2 in attack, and that was one of the things that became big in that time, is that it's not one formation, it's 2 formations.
Yeah.
Your
defensive formation.
And with the 4-4-2, what's lacking is you don't have that ambidexterity as much as if you've got 3 guys in the midfield, maybe one can go, 2 hold back, one the wing back cuts in, or whatever it is that you're going to do with those formations. But yeah, it was that typical get it in the box. I do think they did play that way because they were less skillful than, say, at Olympiacos, where they could be that skillful side and take people on. And
you got Yaya Toure and Rivaldo.
Yeah, and Yaya Toure on his debut for Olympiacos, I remember watching it on TV, takes a shot from the halfway line practically and scores, and everyone goes absolutely crazy. Within 2 weeks, he's sold to Barcelona. But yeah, and it's quite interesting because Andrea and I played together quite a lot. We played at Sporting, we played a 4-4-2 basically all the time.
Pretty much most of the time we played 4-4-2.
And I don't know if it's...
That's when you were in central midfield.
Yeah.
And you were sort of conducting.
So I've always been central midfield. Just that time in Greece. And then in my later years playing socially at Corinthians and that, I was moved to centre back, which I absolutely hated, and I was like, no, not doing that. I was a good tackler, but
best tackler I'd seen. Actually,
I just didn't want to tackle that. I'd like to dictate. I mean, you guys know I like to be on the ball. But the 4-4-2 was a weird formation. At Supersport, we used the 3-5-1, 3-5-2.
3-5-2.
Which is probably what Mark Pavkovic. And it's a strange one, and people use 3-5-2.
In those days, it was advanced.
Yeah, it was advanced. And also, the thing with the 3 at the back.
It was the Italian formation.
Yeah.
It was like known as like a Serie A thing. Like
Catenaccio.
we're doing an Italian.
Yeah, they'd form the Catenaccio. But it would also be like quite aggressive because your back 3 were centre backs. Yeah, it wasn't along the line.
Right, no.
Which
it's a back 5 when you're defending. And then when you're going forward, it's a back 3.
So your wing backs, they've got to be super fit. Otherwise, that formation kind of dies out.
The most important position in that formation is your wing backs.
Yeah, for sure. The wing backs and the centre defensive midfielder.
Yeah,
because he's got to make sure that across that line he kind of covers.
Yeah,
because it's vulnerable.
So that if one of the definitely. I agree with you. So you need at least one holding midfielder, so that when one of those 3 has to split to cover for the bombing on wing back, that central defensive midfielder needs to fullback into that centre back position to cover that position, and you're switching to a back four at that stage almost.
Yes, yes.
Defensively, that's just on the recovery.
Yeah.
You know, so
If
once
you recover.
so once you've lost position, when you're in a recovery mode, you have to slip in to cover that position because one of your centre backs have to shift wide.
Yes.
And that's why it's so useful, because then once you're on the attack, you slip back up, and that wing back's able to recover again, get hold of the ball, do overlapping runs, things like that, and you've got your passing midfielder who can now dictate the play.
Exactly, yeah.
It's
Get on
sad
the
to
ball.
say this, but that's the way Liverpool basically are killing everyone at the moment with the wing backs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a 4-3-3 formation, but the wing backs are just top players.
Jeez.
And then they've got like Jordan Henderson doing really well in the midfield, where he's able to cover and dictate. The thing with Liverpool at the moment is that they're a very good possession side. And they've got the best centre back in the world, who's able to cover sort of two positions by himself. So that gives them, Dejan Lovren, absolutely. Not Virgil van Dijk, he's a clown.
He's dead average.
Dead average.
Dead average.
I think that makes a big difference to their side from a tactical standpoint, is that they've got this just incredible centre back who's almost covering two positions, and it gives the rest of the team freedom to think. So it's almost like playing with a 3-5-2, but you're playing with four at the back.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit of having a player like him. I mean, you look at where Liverpool were finishing. They were scoring lots of goals, but they were finishing 5th, 6th until he came in, or 4th. And when
Couple
he
of
came
slips here and there.
yeah, 1 or 2, but compared to his benefit, he's been unreal for them.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great signing.
Yeah. So,
Unfortunately.
Sad
Andrea, where
just
did
to
you
say
play in this era?
So while Elias was in Greece, I was still playing at Sporting at the time. At that point, recovered from the torn hamstring after the Sweden trip. Still played under 18s, 19s till 20. So then when you got to 20, if you hadn't really made it in an academy or any sort of team, you start like thinking of other paths to go on in life. So that's sort of what happened with me. Ended up stopping playing 11-a-side football, was playing a bit of indoor soccer. Socially. Sort of still love the game, follow it pretty much still till the day I'll die. But that dream of being a pro footballer sort of died at around 19, 20 years old.
I think I could still get into it. So.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm only 31 years old.
It's never too late.
Let's go to Stellenbosch.
Well, I mean,
Play for
like
them, start low and then
Jamie Vardy and them got in late. So,
But you see, this
Well,
is
Vardy was playing league football, it was just lower leagues.
non-league,
this is a
basically.
point that I think needs to be raised, is that let's say I'm in England, right, and I'm 19, 20 years old. I haven't gotten anywhere. I somewhat still actually have a chance, right?
The opportunity's still there.
The opportunity's there, and I'm not saying that I'm not breaking the teams down here, right? But if you're going to make it and have a good career and make enough money and whatnot, you got to then break into the Sundowns, the Kaiser Chiefs, and the Pirates, and those big clubs, right? Your chances of doing that is so slim.
It's very slim.
But
and now,
in England, you can go into a championship side, maybe even a League One side, and make somewhat of a career out of you. Get a Jamie Vardy lucky break.
Even below League One, non-league, he was
Chris Smalling, or like all those
Troy
guys
Deeney.
came out of nowhere. So you almost have this thing like, okay, I'm going to still try because it will be worth my time.
Yeah.
But let's say I tried here, and I'm not saying this is what stopped me, it's just a thought afterward. If I got into, and I'm not breaking these teams down, but Free State Stars, right?
Yeah.
I have to, and actually it's funny
That's where
because
Daniel
Danny
played.
did it, and he did well to get then into Chiefs, because let's just do maths. How much can you make at Free State Stars?
Probably
For
not
how long are you going to play, and how long is that going to sustain you for? So it's almost like, I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many players have done that. I didn't do it. I'm honest. I didn't. That wasn't my thought process. I just stopped when I came back from Greece. But how many players have just gone, oh, it's not worth the effort, I'm just going to go down another route? How many players have been lost to that kind of thinking? Because the league is...
I think the other thing is, even when you're playing for the lower division sides here in South Africa, even if you're playing like non-league, a lot of non-league sides train in the same facilities as PSL sides. So like when I was playing at Germiston City, we were training at the same facility as Morocco Swallows, which is a giant side. And I mean, if you make the Swallows first team, you're earning enough to make a good living. You're not going to kill it and retire, but you're earning enough to make a very good living, you know. And I remember, obviously, the coaches at Swallows, they wouldn't have like scouts watching us, but the coaches obviously would monitor what we're doing. And if they liked a player, they'd come to the coach or your side and they'd say, first thing they'd ask, who's that? No, his name's so-and-so. How old is he? If you weren't 21, 22, they say if they liked you and the way you played and you're 25, 26, they'd just walk off. They'd just walk off straight away. As soon as they said, oh, he's 25, 26, they'd walk away straight away. Yeah, it's just too late for them to invest time in you and energy in developing you. So they see potential. I mean, unless you're a real worldie of a player.
A gem, an uncut gem.
Yeah, but I mean, they're already only picking you out because you're standing up above everyone else in that game. You know what I'm saying? They're picking you out. They say, look, that guy's got vision. He's got passing ability. He's got something that that makes you stand out. So that's why they're asking about you already. And as soon as they hear your age, it's just too difficult for them to say, listen, come to Swallows, come for a trial, whatever. They don't even give you a trial. They just, as soon as they hear your age, they're like, okay, he's too old. We've got a lot of young, talented people who rather concentrate on getting them up to level. Yeah. And I think that's what's difficult. I'm sure it's similar overseas. It's just what makes sense for a club to, where are you at this point? Is it good enough to make our first team? No. Hardly ever are you going to be good enough to make a first team when you haven't trained at first team level. And do you have time to make the first team? No. Once you've hit that 25 mark, far too old to make it there.
Yeah. But I guess like if you're still 21, the juice is worth the squeeze to try.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Whereas I would argue if you're 21 here, again, not all cases. Let's not generalize in every case that it's But you get to 21.
I think the opportunity shrinks a bit already.
It's shrunk, and also like you make it, right? Where do you make it? You make it in a lower team, and then you're going to stay there till you're 30, let's call it. And then after that, what are you going to do? There's absolutely no way, or should I cut myself here? There's absolutely no way that you're going to make enough money after that, if you know what I mean. So
that cut is why you didn't make it.
Yeah, I didn't make it. Damn it, man. I'm a
He's
wuss.
weak.
I'm weak.
Bleeds easily.
I don't have enough Greek blood in me. Damn it. But yeah, so it's an interesting point. And the other thing that I find is a bit lacking is the transition from social to the bigger clubs. I really don't know what it is like now, but I know at our time there were so many strong players playing in like Sporting, Robertsham. I mean, Robertsham was almost like an academy on its own, as much as we don't want to align with Robbies because we're Sporting boys and lineal boys. I mean,
they're our enemy.
Yeah, damn. But I mean, they did quite well in a couple of players. Mark van Heerden from Robertsham. Daniel Cardozo is actually also, well, let's not say that he started at Sporting, then he went to Robbie's.
Did you guys ever play at Robertsham? Like a game or two or like a training session or two? You did, hey?
I played it for them or against them?
No, for them. Did you ever play at Robertsham?
I played at Robertsham for about 5 years, actually.
I think everyone in Johannesburg South, if you were pretty good, you played for Robertsham for a little bit at least.
That's where I started my career as a junior footballer. Was at Robertsham, and then there was some politics. I don't know. When you're young, you don't really understand what's going on. You just want to play. And
the politics are everywhere.
Politics with coaching, parents, and all of this stuff. So then we moved. Like half of the team left and went to Sporting, and then we gathered some other players, and then Elias joined. I think at that point
from Lineal. That's when we played together.
And then that's how our team from Sporting was developed. Was like an exodus from Robertsham, and then
you guys were a strong side. Which were a young side, your Sporting side.
Our Sporting teams were quite good.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because we started low. There was no age group, if I remember.
We started the age group.
We were the age group.
That year.
So we started like League 3, got double promoted into League 1. And then it was quite a good team, and every year got progressively better.
We were playing against then Robertsham.
Yeah.
I think Ramberg.
The 1 year where you got into League 1, the first, whatever they called it, it was a bit of a struggle, if I remember. But I'd left, I'd gone down an age group to with Carl Gonzalez and that age group. But then I remember your team got progressively better every year.
We got to like 15, 16, 17, our team grew strong, quite strong again.
Yeah.
We got some new players. So then we were playing against Kaizer Chiefs, Swallows.
All their youth sides.
At the same time. So that for us was a good learning experience. Yeah. And like you think to yourself, shit, I'm going to play well. Hopefully I could get scouted here.
Yeah.
You'd play your best games against those guys. hope to not catch like a 4 or 5-0,
Yeah.
which happened against Pirates more than once, I think, to us.
Yeah.
Their fitness levels were ridiculous.
We couldn't compare. I mean, these guys are training every day, academies, they looked after food, whatever. At that stage, we didn't know anything about.
Yeah, you were still worrying about school and girls.
You're still worrying about girls, school. You don't know what to eat. You don't know anything, really. I remember the best game was Rand Stadium. We played against Morocco Swallows. I think it was under 17 team. And we like absolutely killed them like 2 or 3-0 on their ground at the stadium. It was like the best feeling ever. And then, you just hope.
At Rand Stadium?
At Rand Stadium, yeah.
Jomo Cosmos.
Yeah, exactly that. But it was Swallows were playing their home games.
They were playing their home games there
time.
at that stage.
Yeah, so that was just an amazing feeling, but nothing came from it. But good times.
And it's like, so going back to the points of competing with those guys, right? It's just science. And we used to do it at Super Sport. So what they would make us do is they would make us go through rigorous fitness training where you want to pass out and then shoot. So your first 2 shots, you get in. And then you start making really ridiculous mistakes. Your third shot, you're like, why did I scuff that? The fourth one, I kicked it completely wide. The fifth one, I hit it right at the keeper. And it was just the point that your fitness prohibits you from doing things. It stops your mind from, calculating quickly enough to do things and shuffle your feet, whatever it is. So, when you're playing against fit people, whether it's Pirates, or whether it's Robertson, or whether it's whoever the hell it is.
You find in the first few minutes you're keeping up.
You keep it, and then that's why those night games, I remember, was always tough. Like if you played one of those teams in a night game, you had a little bit more oomph because you had a bit more fitness. It was the Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
When the sun's beating down.
That sun
on you.
was always hard.
And the cabbage patch pictures where you're breathing in, inhaling sand.
For us, it was like
fantastic.
the best. When we knew we were playing those teams, we knew we were playing on like quality fields.
Yeah.
You're playing at Chiefs or one of their home grounds, it's like
the pitch is good.
It's green grass. You're not on like dry gravel almost.
Us from like the Harveld and Johannesburg South in particular, you'll remember, Elias and you, Andrea, as well. Yes, our pitches were, you would have, first of all, the grass was thorns.
Elias's knees were just blood, basically, every game.
The pitch was sandy brown, everything. And if there wasn't a divot where you were lucky.
Yeah. It's true, yeah.
I think that's also another reason why, obviously, we have a lot of mutual friends who also went overseas and tried it out there. And my biggest memories from a lot of them is coming back with injuries and having a good moan, like really upset coming back saying, look, I did well there. They weren't going to invest in me because I have shin splints, I have knee injuries, whatever. And it's all about how we run here and the sort of pitches that we played on for such a long time that we affected our bodies terribly.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also, I think, the lack of professionalism from a psychological and physical point of view. You need to look after your muscles. You need to take ice baths. You need to do a lot of things pre and after the game. That's what the one gripe I had when we did go to Super Sport. We were promised so many things. It was supposed to be psychological evaluation, eye tests, because all these little things, diets, everything, all these little things make a difference. If you see better, you're going to play better. If you've got, it's a good example of Lukaku, who's completely overweight with United the whole time. It wasn't because of training. He had a dietary problem.
Probably just.
It was diet. I don't know what it was.
Badly advised on diets, maybe.
Yeah, he was given a diet, but his body, he was allergic or he didn't react well to something. I'm just using wheat as an example. It was wheat. The Italians picked it up. They took it out of his diet, and within a couple of weeks, he really started losing weight. And if you see Lukaku now,
it's more lean.
Yeah, and that's a little like an example of a little difference to see. Oh, okay, that's something we can do and help this player along. So there was a lot of that lacking. So a lot of guys, as you say, rightfully, my hamstrings are shattered. I can't run long distance anymore. If I try long distance, something's going to pull, and I did. I tried to go back into social football. I can't play outdoor anymore. My hamstrings are just way too tight. So I'll play indoor and just walk around when I feel like it. Andrea's got the same problem. His hamstrings are also super tight.
My left one just never really got better.
Never really got better. And also when you pull, so if I pulled a muscle, the onus was on me, even though I was at an academy, to go to my own physio,
Look after yourself.
look after
basically.
myself, and do my own little regime to recover. Where as a 13-year-old, who's honestly going to do all the things they tell you to do?
Yeah, of course.
And also, like, they'd be like, do this exercise to strengthen this and strengthen that. And you're like, oh, whatever, I'm young.
Unless
I
you're
don't care,
Messi,
I'm
where
gonna be
you're
fine.
going to Barcelona and they're going to invest all the time and energy in the world to you.
And the steroids.
Give you some growth hormone to grow
Yeah.
taller.
But that's like, and I hope that the scene has changed in South Africa, but I somehow doubt it. We have a mentality where we just want things to happen.
I think there's
next day.
just a lot of like lack of funding. So I think the biggest movement now for young footballers that has come up is we're seeing super sports, kick it off campaigns. These small super sports academies where a large corporate like Supersport is funding coaching and things like that for little kiddies, so that their parents don't have to figure out all of that stuff. I think that's the sort of grassroots thing that's going to help South African football, where we're going to not lose our talent pool. I think that's the frustrating part. A lot of what we're talking about now, it sounds like moaning that we didn't make it and whatever. And it's fine. Like, I'll be the first to admit I probably wouldn't have made it anyway. You can give me all the sports science and whatever you want. I'm unlikely to have made it anyway, which is fine. But the sad thing is that I know so many guys, and you being one of them, where I thought to myself, yes, you guys are so... When you're playing at kiddies football and you see 2 or 3 guys that just like look different world. They look like they're playing 3-4 years. But they look 3-4 years above where they're playing. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're 13 and you can step into the under 16 side and play with them, and they'll kick you to pieces, but you'll turn them inside out and play whatever. When you see those players and they don't necessarily make it and they don't go on, I think that's frustrating, where you guys are top players and then you've got like knee injuries and there you go. Sorry, no chance at a career, go be an accountant. That's where it's frustrating. And I think for anyone who's a fan of South African football and wants like the national side to do well or beyond that, that's where it's frustrating, where you've got this talent pool of players that aren't getting the right care and that we've like completely diminishing the ability to have a top side. Yeah. And I mean, maybe I'm being biased to the community I was in, and I just think to myself, I see 4, 5, 6 players, mostly Mediterranean descent, like Portuguese, Italian, Greek guys, all of these guys just have all the ability in the world, playing well in our just little local kickabouts, look a different level, but never able to kick onto the professional level because they're so restricted to their opportunity.
There was just no direction on where to go. Yeah, we were almost clueless without knowing about what was happening. Yeah, we just had no idea where to go.
I guess we were stuck in a weird time as well, because there was a Pirates academy, and I'm using quotation marks because they weren't really in academy stage. They were more like a football club. And then Supersport just started. There was no real academies when you were around. It was the clubs were the powerhouses of football.
And the onus was on those coaches there to go and find the talent as well.
Yeah, and they actually did well. Again, like just thinking about how small the South is, it produced 2 players that are playing. I mean, Mark van Heerden made it early on. Daniel made it a little bit later on, but he made it so big. Well. Yeah, and then there's a couple of young guys that are coming through. I know Diaz, Miguel, he's at Tux. Yeah. He's at Tux. So it's like there's this talent in this little area, and I don't know what it is. So I don't have the story that goes, I got injured and I came back. I had the story that goes, I just got so fed up, and I just called it quits. It over there. And again, I'm not saying I would have made it any way, shape or form, but just I got fed up, and I could have stuck it out, and who knows what would have happened. But it's frustrating, man. It's really frustrating also to leave. You know, something I don't understand about this country. Why are we driven to leave? Why are we driven to leave the country?
Go and make it in Europe.
You want to make it big, and that's one of the things. You want to go to Europe because it's a big league. It's like if you work, you want to go work for PwC if you're an accountant, or EY. You're not striving to work for Joe and Joe accountants on the corner of Rosettenville. It's whatever. But there's like, if you just had a little bit more homegrown, and again, I'm talking then, I don't know the scene at the moment right now, but if you just had that little bit of a transition where you got in, you got a bit of experience, a club like Pirates is going, here's these guys, boom, put you in the team, sweet. You already got a way to go. Now, when you go to Greece and you're like, oh, I'm from Sporting. Oh, what's Sporting?
I'm gonna say, what's
like,
that?
luckily, Sporting was okay
Lisbon, yeah.
because of that. So a lot of guys were like, oh, that's like they linked
They
with Sporting.
affiliated
So I'm
to
like,
Sporting
yeah,
in
I would just say
Portugal.
yes, but obviously
Yeah, they're not at all.
Not
Yeah.
at all. And again, what
Which
a
was
missed
sad,
opportunity.
actually, if you thought
Which is
about
like
it.
like
you know-
Maritimo in the south now as well,
Also.
which came with that club only started a few years after this. You know,
Yes.
it's a newer club than
Yeah.
Sporting, but it's not affiliated with
Yeah.
Maritimo in
Not
in
at all.
Portugal,
Or
yeah.
União or whatever.
any of them, yeah.
And it's quite sad because going to the Portuguese guys, there were a ton of talented Portuguese players that if somebody had a brain to bring them over for more trials and more training, I mean, I can start naming them. There was Carl Gonzalez. I'll say Daniel Cardozo because, again, that potential wasn't reached. I don't think his potential was reached in terms of going into a big club like that. Again, like he made it later on in his career, which maybe stifled his opportunity. Who knows? I don't know what to say about that, but he had a lot of potential.
I think he's doing well enough.
No, obviously, I'm saying he's doing well, but I think he could have done better. I think he could have gone way higher than what he's gone now. His opportunities were way limited. There's Robbie Cadilli. There's so many guys that could have.
Sean Hurselman.
Sean Hurselman. Okay, he's not Portuguese, but yeah, Sean Hurselman. There was a guy, Martin Miguel. I can't remember his surname.
Our friend Justin Donachie,
Justin.
but he had the injuries.
Donachie. Yeah, he had. Yeah, no, Justin was.
I thought he was a top player.
Justin was
I'm still a big fan of Justin.
He was like that. Dude, sorry, can you pull this?
Okay.
I don't know what I did to my
Bleeding
finger.
everywhere.
He was like that typical, we're saying that winger, that fast winger, gets down the wing with insane skill. It's like a gigs type player. Also, one of those guys that you look at and go, why didn't you make it? You know, geez.
Apparently he's right foot, according to Kilmarnock, but we should get him in. Like he didn't have enough of a banger of a right foot, not enough power in his strike.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, because I remember him he had a strong shot, but obviously with injuries, you lose it. Like I had a strong shot and I lost it by
He had a
tearing
powerful
it.
shot, but apparently, from what he's told me, and I shouldn't be speaking on his behalf, we should just rather get him in sometime. But he said in the Scottish League, even though he had a more powerful shot here in South Africa than a lot of the guys, when he was there,
Not
not
really.
at all. Yeah,
Sure,
like
that's
it wasn't powerful enough. Like they tried to develop his technique to hit the ball even harder and strike it cleaner.
Yeah, 100%. It helps to have a strong shot, but well, like you say, we'll have to speak to him.
Yeah.
But then moving away from us, the Mediterraneans, if you want to group us. Again, if you look at the skill level in the townships,
Incredible.
you play with those guys.
Turn you inside out.
And you can go play in Europe with all the Spanish and all the whoever you want. Nobody has these, and it always just baffles my brain, those flexible ankles. They're like twist and turn, and
They're
there's
all
not
over the show, really.
like that grooming. I feel people are throwing money at things, but they're not throwing expertise and actual following through with a lot of things. Like we are on the one hand need a little bit more psychological work and whatnot. They need tons more. And it's a weird thing that South African players versus Ghanaian, Nigerian, DRC even, why is it that those guys, they'll go with nothing and they absolutely make it big time? But how many of our South African players go, even
They have the skill and the
thought of going?
ability.
Yeah,
and they're facing
absolutely.
probably the same amount of adversity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even maybe in some cases not as much. And I'm not saying that they don't face adversity. I'm saying some countries have war as opposed to
Yeah, they run
it's
away
poverty.
because of war,
There's war
basically.
and poverty and a whole bunch of things, that are added on top. So like what is it that our guys with all the skill are not going and breaking the barrier where Sadio Mane is making it? You can start naming basically everyone in the Premier League has got 2 or 3 of these players.
Like
You'll find
Brazilians and Africans,
Yeah.
they're always
Yeah.
like the poorest
Yeah,
guys.
the poorest
that go and
guys.
make it.
Yeah, the South American guys and the African guys, you find that a lot of the pro footballers, you either make it if you're like super privileged and they've been giving you training since you were young, and they like really looked after you the entire time, or you're the guys who have so much adversity. Like, okay, to be fair, Marcus Rojo is one that like dirt poor family. His dad would clean the locker rooms of the squad that he played for in lieu of club fees, because his dad couldn't pay the club fees, and they figured his son had the ability and some potential. So he would go and clean that football club as part of his payment towards the son's club fees, So there's there's something to like this facing so much adversity that pushes you in terms of the determination to go and make it as a great footballer. So if you've got the skill and the natural ability, and then you face that adversity and it just motivates you to go wild, you know, to go really push it hard at it. I think you need to be one or the other. Can't be like us, like somewhere in between. Like you haven't faced any adversity. Everything's so lacquer for your mom and dad.
Sure.
You know, like if you didn't make the squad, your mom goes and shouts at the coach because she's paying for you to be there, you know, and she's like, hey, why is my son not playing? And the poor coach has to sit there and be like, because he's not good.
He's not
you
that
know,
great,
I don't know. Whatever. And, you know, that doesn't push you to get better. You know, it's too much of this sort of thing. Hey, they're kids. They need to all play. Be fair, coach. And then, meanwhile, the guy's like he's volunteering. You know, he's not even getting paid to be a coach. He's just there because he digs football and he wants to help little kiddies, you know. So I think you either too much in the middle ground. You either have all of the facilities available to you, all the sports science, everything like that to help you build. And that has to be mixed in with self-motivation and self-discipline somehow. Or you face the adversity and you play like township football and you're just so determined to get out of there that you do everything it takes to try and make it.
Yeah. But like, my question is, why do we not have township superstars like the Sadio Mane?
Yeah.
You know, what is it? Is it a different type of adversity? Is it that...
Or are we not that level?
Or we not,
you know, we look at
exactly.
Percy Tau, who's doing so well, played a couple of games against Man United in the Europa League.
Bruges now. I think.
Yeah.
In Belgium.
In Belgium, on loan from Birmingham City.
Brighton.
Yeah.
From Brighton.
That's right, Brighton.
Never played a game for
He hasn't
Brighton.
played for Brighton yet. No, they signed him because of the potential, and he's gone out on loan straight away.
I think it was like a work visa issue, which is the most South African problem.
Yeah, like you imagine,
Like
you get signed by a Premier League club, but you can't play there because you're South African. You can't get the visa.
You can't get a work visa. It's the most South African
but
problem.
I think he'll get a visa having played a certain number of games in Belgium.
Yeah.
So once he's now played a certain number of league games in Belgium, then the immigration office in the UK will say, okay, he's clearly a professional footballer.
And he's
we
great.
can see by that. He's a top player.
But
I really
he's
like
not
him. Scores
he's not
goals.
a Sadio Mane, you know.
No, he's not that
that's
level.
Like the point that I'm trying
How
to...
many Sadio Manes are there, though? Zero. I think he's the best player in the continent, first of all.
Yeah,
and I think that he's just a few steps behind Ronaldo and Messi and a few of them.
Yeah,
he's really up
great.
there, one of the top 10 footballers on the planet.
Yeah, he probably is in the top 10.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he's around there. Him and Salah are two of the real top boys around.
If
And
not
those
one
are
of the
Africa's top.
strikers.
Yeah. Really, really top players.
Yeah.
I think Mane had a ridiculous piece of skill. I'm trying to think of which game it was. I don't know if it was the West Ham game. I think it was Aston Villa. It was 0-0 the whole game.
Yeah.
Last few minutes, they dink a ball from the back. It's behind him. He just stretches out his leg and delicately puts it on the floor, sets himself up in one motion, brings the ball
I
down,
remember.
strikes it, bang, goal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's good running with the ball. They're putting the ball through to him. He's like great at running onto the ball and finishing it off.
Do you think that perhaps from South Africa we don't have enough of a blend in our team? So for me, from a tactical standpoint, I look at the South African side. Well, you look at a Bafana, but beyond them, even the PSL sides and things like that. Kaizer Chiefs do very well because they're so different to the South African way of playing football. You know, we have a very South African way of playing football, which is all the skill, all of the fancy little tricks,
Quick
the
little
PSL
pass,
ping
yeah.
pass,
Quick
you know,
passes,
the
yeah.
PSL pass, bang it into his feet really hard, hope that he can control it, you know. Half the time you miscontrol it because you're playing it too hard, you know. And the opposite of what we call a hospital pass, where you're laying it too soft and you're giving the opponent opportunity to get to it or whatever. And I think that we don't have a good blend in our either the PSL or in the national side itself of these like Mediterranean type talents and things like that we had. And I think it's why the current Chiefs side does so well, is that they're not blowing everyone away like the Pretoria side Sundowns. You know, they blow people away, the Brazilians. It's all skill, all pace, all skill pass, skill pass, whatever, cut it back and tap it in. Whereas Kaizer Chiefs just get dogged and bully and pump in a long ball and just try to flick it on with a header and one or two players with skill.
Their coach is the German.
Yeah.
I think he's German.
Middendorf.
Yeah. So he's obviously got a strong background
Yes.
from European coaching and all of his levels there. So
I think that blend is something that we need here in South Africa, where we've got a lot of that sort of talent, like where you've got a tactical guy or a passer or whatever, and you mix them in with the skillful players, and that's where you've got a good side, in my opinion. I think that's where we're really going to take off. Well, South Africa has top goalkeepers. I don't know if when you were playing league football, geez, like I remember we would play in a division, like when I was in my early 20s, we were playing in very low divisions, obviously. We weren't playing like league level football. And once in a while, you'd come across another team, and already before the game, you'd get like a nudge and say, "Listen, that keeper, he plays for African Warriors. You know, like he's one of the younger guys. He's not first team goalkeeper, whatever." And you just didn't get the ball past him. Just didn't get the ball past him. Unless you had a really great chance for a good tap in or something, you weren't scoring today. You know, and it showed you the different level.
Was he tall?
He was quite a tall guy, yeah. And it's just unreal. You're just not getting the ball past him.
There's weird rules with keepers. Some clubs don't want like short goalkeepers. It's just like a weird thing.
I guess it makes sense.
But then like you look at Kune, that's...
Oh, Shay Given.
I think he's quite short.
Yeah, Itumeleng Kune is a short goalkeeper.
Bartes.
Yeah, Fabian Bartes.
But he was
a top goalkeeper at the time.
Until he came to United.
Yeah, it seems like
I don't know what happened there.
He made a lot of good stops. It was just the silliness of trying to play out from the back and stuff like that. There weren't many goalkeepers at the time. Whereas now you look at it, every goalkeeper has to be good with their feet. Look at Joe Hart, really top goalkeeper. How many Premier League titles behind him? Won everything. England's number one. Pep Guardiola comes in and says, "Cheers."
Yeah, because you can't pass.
Because you can't pass.
Yeah.
You're not good enough on the ball.
Yeah.
You're good on the ball, but you're not Claudio Bravo.
Yeah.
Then Claudio Bravo
Terrible
comes in,
goalkeeper.
terrible goalkeeper, good with his feet,
Fantastic.
and then they scrap him again because we Manchester City, we can scrap him again. Go look again. Let's bring in the boy from Benfica, and look at that. Look how that's worked out for them. Top goalkeeper,
done well.
unreal with
Except
his feet.
for last week.
Yeah, unreal with
good
his
for
feet.
us.
But that's how it all works out. I think that football's evolving all the time. The sports science is evolving all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's a big part. Arsene Wenger bringing nutrition and things into Arsenal team at that time. As soon as he came in, that Arsenal side, all of a sudden, not the best players on the planet, but all of a sudden, that Arsenal side went from being bang average. Arsene Wenger comes in, all their diets right, all their sports science is right. Tactically, he was kind of clever and cute. And all of a sudden, they're just destroying sides. And then they bring in one or two real talented players. You know, Ian Wright would score a goal from nothing. And
Bergkamp the same.
yeah,
They
Dennis
brought all the French guys.
yeah, then Perez,
Vieira.
Wiltord, Henry,
Yeah.
you know, and
World Cup winners.
yeah, all these World Cup winners. And
Because he changed the culture of English football, basically.
he did.
Because
Yeah.
there was like
credit
there was
to
a drinking culture.
There was,
those players used to go to a pub after like a training or
Tony Adams.
a match.
Tony Adams was a
have
full-on
some beers,
alcoholic.
Yeah, and then Wenger changed the whole thing.
Yeah, and just because they evolved so far, and it's like when Jose Mourinho came in from his study point of view, and I'll always be a fan of Jose Mourinho because he does so well because of how hard he works. All his success is hard work. All the behind-the-scenes stuff that you don't see of him doing his press interviews
his
and moaning
mentality.
about this player, whatever. It's just hard work. He'd work 3, 4, 5 days straight till 2 a.m., building up to a game, studying the team, studying how they all work, whatever.
Yep.
And you'd give each player a dossier before the game saying, this is the guy you're marking, this is what he does. He turns this way, he turns that way, and you sort of sit and study. You're so well prepared for the game that your ability came second compared to your competition. And then now you see Jose Mourinho is not as effective a manager because everyone else had to catch up as well. So they have full-on teams of people studying. You know, you have scouts scouting your opposition for 3-4 weeks in advance, that they've already been building reports ahead of the game for a long time, so that 2-3 days before the game, this week we're worrying about the Man United game on the weekend, and we're preparing,
Counter-attack.
you know, Daniel James, Daniel James is going to run at you, or Marcus Rashford's going to run at you at right back.
Yes.
So what you need to do is this. You know, Rashford's going to cut in on his right foot, push him out on his left. He's not going to get a good cross in. Just keep pushing him out on his
He's going
left.
to head it in any case.
He was going to hit it anyway.
Except we bring on Igalo. But anyway.
Yeah, there's a little bits of change for Man United, but I was just using them as an example for like how you handle that team. You know,
100%,
there's all this preparation. When you've got Aston Villa coming to town, it's like just stick 3 on Jack Grealish and then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Just man mark.
yeah,
best
just
player.
just man mark Grealish, and then we'll be fine. So anyway, it was about the preparation, and then the whole game changes, and that's when Arsene Wenger all of a sudden isn't as effective anymore.
Yeah.
He comes to the league, best manager by far,
Yeah.
and he didn't, because he evolved the game, everyone else caught up, and then all of a sudden he's not the top manager anymore. To be fair to him, he had like what he had available to him. You know, he had this
couldn't really buy
top
players
side.
anymore.
Then they go buy a stadium, and he couldn't bring in anyone to compete, and they just sort of slowly
And he
disappeared.
always says Arsenal's failure is moved from Highbury to Emirates. They should have stayed at Highbury.
Yeah, but how?
But that's a corporate decision.
Yeah.
That
That was
comes
a
into
business.
play,
It
you
just
know?
became a business.
Always becomes a business. But yeah, you're right. Like that evolution of football.
But that's
And
why
where you
Ferguson was so good.
Exactly.
That's what you're about to say.
You go for it.
Yeah, because Ferguson, I mean, went through all those eras from United being
And he won all of them.
basically crap from 1987 or 8 when he joined.
Yeah.
For like 5 or 6 years.
He was struggling.
Pretty much didn't
Almost
win.
fired.
Almost got relegated. I mean,
Fired.
well, he was
Fired.
quite low.
Yeah.
One of the seasons, but nearly got fired. And then just...
Won the FA Cup, saved his job.
Yeah, and then everything just started changing.
Then the youth system also
Brought
came
out
in and
the
saved him.
class of 92.
Yeah.
All of our
92.
heroes, basically. Beckham,
Yeah.
Scholes, Giggs.
Yeah, I think like one of Ferguson's good things that he did is he always had a group of leaders, and it was something that was like, it's novel, even in sport today. Like our Springboks won last year, backed by a group of leaders. Obviously, Sia Khaleesi was great, but it was a group of leaders.
Yeah, not
And
just
like,
one.
Yeah, you go into the team, and obviously a bit later, it was Brian Robson at
Yeah,
first.
he was
But then Eric Cantona
player.
comes in, and Roy Keane, and
We had
all the
Pallister at the back and
yeah,
Steve Bruce
Neville,
at that
all,
time.
like it always was a group of players,
Big,
that-
strong players.
yeah,
Mentality
pushing.
as well.
And I think that's with United that was a problem now, is we didn't have even one. We didn't have
Yeah.
one leader. Now we've got Maguire, who's a good leader in my eyes. We've got Bruno Fernandes, who apparently is amazing in the change room. He's a captain already from Sporting.
Yeah.
And you've got a passionate striker like Igalo, who's
His dream
his
was to be a
dream.
United
He
player.
walks in there and is like, wow. And it's all about culture, right? So anything to do with learning is a cultural thing.
Oh, let's not get carried away with Man United now.
Yes, yeah. Let's not go too far. But yeah,
We'll
Alex
have to see
Ferguson.
next season. But I agree with you completely. You look at certain errors in Man United. The England captain was a Man United player, couldn't even catch captaincy in that side. It's so rare to have a football club that has international captains that can't even captain their own side because of the massive choice of leadership. You know, Roy Keane's there, he's captain. End of story. David Beckham, you're captain of England. Sorry, you're not captain of Man United. You know, and there was multiple examples of that. You know, Man United historically, when Ferguson was there, you look at Antonio Valencia, captain of his club, so I can't make captain for United. You know, it's a long list of that. You know, Nemanja Vidic is our leader. Finished. End of story. He's the top leader here. He's the biggest personality. You know, Rio Ferdinand could be a leader of any other side in the Premier League. Not going to be captain
for
here.
you.
Edwin van der Sar, captain of the Dutch side. You know, not going to be captain here at Man United. You know, you could pick 5-6 captains out of that side and be proud of it. And I think that's been Arsenal's biggest problem in a few years.
Yeah,
not one leader.
absolutely.
I was excited for my friends who are Arsenal fans when Granit Xhaka was coming in, because it's like, finally, someone with some guts and some spirit and, you know, something, and not just pretty footballers. You know, you need the combination of the two. You need pretty footballers, guys who play unbelievable little pieces of skill, like Sadio Mane we were talking about. I don't think he's an absolute leader. I don't think you're going to stick a captain's armband on him, but pump the ball up the field and see what he can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he doesn't need to have that on his shoulders, you know.
No.
So,
As long as there's someone else with some guts and some spirit, like they've got Jordan Henderson and Virgil van Dijk and players like that.
Yeah.
So you are the captain, or you're the manager of Manchester United today.
Yeah.
Andrea, what do you do?
Jeez, today. Well, I think...
Quarantine, first of all.
Well, we're on a three-week break quarantine at the moment. But at the moment, what Solskjaer has done, I would just use as a sort of benchmark of what United needs to do. Start bringing in more young players, buying the right players. Don't waste your money on Memphis Depay and Falcao and
sort of have an interview
like
with the player before and it's like, what do you think of Man United?
Don't just
Ask them
let the American owner just decide, look, that player's looking good in that league, I'm just going to go buy him.
Di
kind of
Maria.
thing. You know what I mean? Which was sad because Di Maria was probably one of the best players we could have got at that time.
Yeah.
And then someone robbed his house and it was finished.
And then, he hates Manchester, basically. But, I mean, I would just keep developing what we're doing. The style of play, you could see, is going in the right direction. More attacking, pressing. Our defense is solid now, I think.
I agree. I think they're
And
good
then-
players, but there's a lack of something.
So there is still something lacking. So Bruno's sort of filled that gap completely now.
Yeah, it's
With
just
the
if he gets
central.
injured.
But like if he's gone, who's sort of there? We're not going to have... I don't know if Mata can do the same job as him. So then,
Not
Mata's a
anymore.
bit slow, yeah.
so like maybe another good player, because I don't know if Pogba is going to be there next year.
yeah.
Even if he isn't.
I'd love for him to stay.
Yeah, look, he's
a
great,
horrible-
but I don't know.
I almost have a
I'm like
feeling
on the
that-
fence.
I've got a feeling that Bruno and Pogba might be like a Gerrard Lampard kind of thing.
They're gonna
where
clash.
you want both of them,
But that's
definitely.
not gonna
but
work.
where do
You
they
can't play
fit?
them together
I don't know,
kind of
maybe
thing.
because Pogba is also not a conservative player. Bruno is also not conservative.
How many Man United players in the past were conservative players?
Well, the good
Well,
ones
how
are...
many?
Are you saying the good
ones-
eras? Or?
The good eras in the past.
Yeah.
Eric Cantona.
Yeah.
Would he
Not
play a safe
conservative.
pass?
No.
Paul Scholes just had such vision. I don't think you can actually use him because he would play a safe pass where in his mind it was safe, but no one else
No,
saw that
yeah,
pass.
he was conservative, but
In a way,
nobody
yeah.
else.
In his mind, it
yeah.
was conservative, but it was a risky pass.
That
at
was
the
it,
of
yeah.
the day,
End of story.
Roy
there.
Keane wasn't a conservative player, and he'd take your legs off for you as well.
Yes.
Kanchelskis.
Yeah.
He was on the left.
I would get fresh. I remember being a kid. It's like, hey, there, that guy's open.
Yes.
Bang. Pays it to the guy who's marked by 3 players, but somehow squeezes it in between the 3 or 4
Great
and makes
vision.
an opportunity, So, and I think that was a big thing that was lacking. And I think people are going to hammer on at me. But like, Van Gaal was fine. He just needed time. Van Gaal was a joke. He started this safe play mentality,
Negative
the
football.
negative football.
You can still
pass
see it
back.
in the guys that play.
were there.
They turn backward. Have you noticed for how
Yeah.
many seasons that instead of pushing forward,
Keep the ball.
they'll turn back and it's okay. Like if you've got nothing on, but sometimes just run in front of the player, get a free kick or something like
Yeah.
that. But you see that the cultural thing that
I mean,
comes into
Mourinho
play.
wasn't there long, but he even mentioned that these players have a bit of this negative football in their mind, the way they were playing with Van Gaal. And he was like, I don't know why they're always doing this.
It's this whole
when
philosophy,
They could go
Raj.
forward, they turn in and go into the left back or the right back or whatever it is when
Yeah.
there's a player making a run for it. So United now is at least starting to change that and they're pushing
I think
forward.
Bruno Fernandes alone has like sort of changed that
Yeah.
mentality almost.
Absolutely.
It's been like a month of
And I
bliss
think
with him, basically.
He's been great, and Igalo they showed that video of Lukaku and Igalo's touch. Like obviously Lukaku's better than Igalo. Let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic striker, but he didn't do the stuff that Igalo's doing for us already. Long ball from De Gea,
Perfectly
touches,
held
bang,
up.
done. He's held it back. He's pushed the play away, and he doesn't have to be the 90-minute player. He's that 20-minute player. Comes on and just relax, chilled. He's happy to be there. He's happy to play 1 minute.
Yeah.
It's just a cultural thing. I mean, if we're sitting here, right, and Andrea's like this, he's leaning down, he's like, oh, I really hate being here. I mean, the room already gets affected by that.
I
kind
think
of
half
thing.
of us we're not near that level of the skill and ability of those sort of players, of a Man United player. I mean, those are like when you were
the pinnacle
when you
of
were
football.
6 years old. And it doesn't matter if you're John O'Shea, and we can rag John O'Shea or Gary Neville or whoever all we want. They look bang average in that side. They look like since you're a joke, buddy. But when they were 3 or 4 years old, they were already leaps and bounds above everyone in their little side. That's the level of a Man United player. But in saying that, the last few years, I reckon you put a bang average player in that squad that loves Man United, and they'll be doing better than Falcao and Di Maria and all of those top players because they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, he fights for the shirts.
Di Maria didn't
Igalo
want to be
fights for
there.
the shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Di Maria
he
was
looked,
sour.
He looked a worldie when he arrived, and they robbed his house, and from that day,
His head was
the
gone.
mentality
Yeah,
was
his
gone.
head was
Yeah,
gone.
it's strange. I don't know. Just to go walk into Man United and be like, I don't want to be a...
Yeah,
Wow.
thanks for the £300,000 a week.
Exactly. And like Sanchez, that was shocking. Honestly, when you hear Sanchez coming to United and you think of, okay, well, maybe he's going to be a great player. But to be honest, he was somewhat past his best.
I don't know. I think that if you want to be fair to him and, to be completely fair to him, the team he went into. What was he supposed to do?
It was a bit of a messed up team at
there
the
was
time,
no,
I guess.
But they shouldn't have signed him. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What
agree.
was the point of that signing? To be honest,
It was like a
it's
trade
shock
with
buy.
Mkhitaryan to Arsenal.
There were
It
two
made
things
no
there in my
sense.
mind. The one was they wanted someone good because we didn't have, and then they also were like, well, we don't want City to have him. And City played a nice
that was
little
it.
game, and that was really the point of that one.
Okay, guys, let's wrap this up.
Cool.
Instagram handles.
Um,
Do you want anyone to follow you first of all?
Yeah, sure.
yeah, let me.
Just gotta
can't
remember.
remember. Yeah. Mine
Mine's
is-
Andrea _Savvides _87.
Wow. Yeah.
_ sure. Mine's Elias _ Landy, Landy 88.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. If you have enjoyed this podcast, we've been in discussions of this. We want to actually make a football podcast a permanent thing away from my show here. So if you have liked this podcast, give us a 5-star rating, give us a comment. Just let me know that, I'd love to listen to this every week. So give us a shout out, of course. This has been the Marco Martins Revolution and has been brought to you by Vodcast TV, Johannesburg's premier shared podcast studio platform. If you have been wanting to do your own podcast, visit vodcasttv.com/revolution now and get 15% off. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you very
Cheers.